welcome back to part 2. And we're going to be talking today about more things that you can do to biohack your health and be able to, just by your environment and some awareness and not having to spend a lot of money, make a big difference in the quality of your life and your health. So I wanted to share with you in particular today a little bit about the importance of stress, because we find this word coming up on almost every level of healthcare. Stress is something emotionally that profoundly affects our adrenal glands, and from there greatly affects all of the chemistry in our brain and our body. When we're under stress, we literally shift the autonomic nervous function from a parasympathetic type of a function to a sympathetic function. Now, I know that's a mouthful. But parasympathetic is what happens when we're resting and rebuilding, and also when we're calm and at peace, and it's a state that we're in when we're in meditation. We're in a parasympathetic mode. And sympathetic is when we're in fear and we're trying to protect ourselves and we're accomplishing things and making things happen and doing. And the energy moves away from the building of organs and the supporting of organs and nourishing them to utilizing what we have and putting the energy into the arms and the legs so that we can move, and into acute types of brain functions, not calm, but like really on edge, looking for what might be harming us to protect ourselves, instead of into the organs of detoxification and digestion and things of that nature. So we want to reduce stress in our lives as much as we can, so that when we really do need our stress hormones, they're available to us and can make a big difference. And one of the things that's so important with that is to find time in your day to do things that you love, that you relax with, and that makes you feel good about yourself and the people that you might be sharing it with. So for some people that might be prayer, for others it might be meditation or both. It might be walking out in nature, which I highly recommend. And instead of walking out in nature with a cell phone or some kind of a device or screen in your hands, to be walking without a screen of any sort that's giving you electromagnetic frequencies that are harmful. But instead, to let your bodies soak in the incredible sounds of nature that are very nourishing and supportive. If possible, wearing leather-soled shoes instead of rubber-soled shoes, because that will allow the electromagnetics, the magnetism of the earth to come up through your feet. And also to wear as little clothing as you're comfortable with, so that your skin can benefit by the rays of the sun that have very healing frequencies of color and light that stimulate healing in our bodies. Not only for the body itself through the skin, but probably the most important thing is through the eyes without sunglasses. Today we're shooting without a computer, but I carry these with me, and I think I showed these to you in our last show, just in case I'm going to be in front of a computer. And if I am, I can reduce or reduce the blue light, the harmful light, from the emanations from the computer, or from a television, or from unnatural lighting with my little blue blocker glasses. But when you're outdoors, you're getting the incredible benefit of all the sun. You can also really especially benefit by sunrise. During the sunrise, there is a whole cascade of beautiful frequencies and colors of light. All the ultraviolet lights and the different red shades are there, in addition to the blue and the ambers and the oranges. But if you can spend half an hour to an hour out in the early morning sun every day, first of all, it's so inspiring to see all the colors of the sky come in from the sunrise. But also, you have the dew on the ground, which has an incredible spiritual quality to it and healing quality for your feet. If you can lie down, like I typically will take a sheet and lie it on the grass so I can see the fire ants. But then I'll lie down in the grass and get some of the magnetism of the grass, as well as all the healing frequencies of light. And so many people have found that this one thing is one of the most powerful things that they've done that's made a big difference when they have some form of chronic illness or digestive issue, just being out in the sun. It also is amazingly supportive to our hormone function, especially if you can get some form of DHA into your body. And when I say DHA, I'm talking about a fish oil that comes when you eat things like sardines or seafood or a high quality fish oil. I personally use fermented fish oils because they have vitamin A, D, and K. So our fish oils have EPA and DHA, two very, very beneficial fish oils for us. And the DHA is so important when blended with sunlight in order to support your body in producing its own melatonin. So for those of you who have trouble sleeping, believe it or not, getting sunlight in the early morning and getting some good quality fish into your life, like the cold water fish from the sardines, or oysters if you're a male, especially because of the zinc in it as well. These things can be very beneficial in helping your body to produce your own melatonin. And this is part of the brilliant research of Dr. Jack Kruse, and you can go onto his website and find really hundreds of medical papers showing this kind of data about the importance of the sunlight, the magnetism from the earth, and also the fish. Krill oil can also be beneficial. I personally tend to go more towards the EPA, DHA, the fish oils, and the fermented fish oils. I find they work the best in my body, but you can try krill as well and see what you feel for yourself. Also, there is a very reddish oil from azacitidine, and that's what gives the red color to salmon, and it's a very powerful antioxidant form of fish oil as well. But it's also quite pricey. So I tend to go with actually eating sardines as my primary way, as well as I love eating salmon eggs and other fish eggs. Most of the caviars are too expensive, but there are a number of them that are really reasonable. And what I tend to do, because I don't eat grains, is I'll take a little endive leaf and I'll put some organic creme fraiche in there. Or you could use like a kefir cheese if you make that sort of thing, or purchase it. And then I'll put some fish eggs on top, and maybe a tiny bit of some oregano from the garden, or if it's the right time of year, dill from the garden. And it's such a delicious treat, and my body absolutely loves it. And I try and do that at least every day. That, as well as getting seaweed. My favorite seaweed is arame, and it looks like little black threads, and I will just soak a little bit of it and keep it by the sink, and whenever I go to wash dishes, I'll take a little bit out with my fingers and eat probably half a teaspoon's worth or something. So all day long, I'm getting all of the minerals from the ocean and a very decent amount of iodine, which is something that we as Westerners desperately need. So when I buy my seaweed, there's a company called Eden that I really trust. And they grow it, it is grown in Japan, but they're growing it in really clean beds. And I've been using Eden for many, many years. So I tend to carry it here in my pharmacy, share it with my patients, eat it myself. I also buy their dulse flakes, and I might shake some dulse flakes on things. And I'm also looking at buying supplemental forms of kelp, because kelp is also quite high in selenium. And selenium is such a profoundly important mineral. I've been studying a lot about minerals recently and their relationship to all of the different genetic factors, and also in relationship to the acupuncture meridians and the spinal cord itself. Dr. Richard Ulrey is the person who's written the books on these things. And then I've been listening to Dr. Gerhard Schnauzer, I believe. Schnauzer is his name. Probably the world's expert on selenium. And they talk about how selenium is essential for preventing Parkinson's and even helping to reduce the symptoms of Parkinson's, because it helps to move toxins out of the brain and won't allow aluminum to settle in the brain. Also, how selenium is antiviral, and so it's fantastic for any type of virus. There was an infection, a type of infection that was causing people to bleed to death, and they found that when they gave people high doses of selenomethionine, he typically recommends 300 to 400 micrograms, not milligrams, but micrograms of selenium a day, which is far higher than the FDA recommends. But if we're at 300 to 400 milligrams a day, it's very protective against cancer and has been used also to reduce cancers in many studies. Now, of course, I can't say that it's a cure for cancer, but there are many studies showing the benefits of selenium with numerous forms of tumorous types of cancers. Selenium also seems to be amazing for supporting people with brown spots on their skin, liver spots, because that has to do with oxidation, and the selenium is really wonderful with preventing liver spots and helping them to actually go away as well, again at about 300 to 400 micrograms. And it appears that kelp also has selenium in it, but I also like to use a selenomethionine supplement just to make sure that I'm getting enough selenium, because it is so very, very important in this day and age. The iodine is probably the most important mineral, and then selenium comes secondary. And particularly for those of us here in Austin, because we have fluoridated water. And fluoride is a halene, and so is bromine. And for those of you who are still eating bread, they condition bread with bromine. And that helps to pull the iodine out of your system. So we have bromine and fluorine, working against us here. And I highly recommend that people stop eating all breads that are made with wheats and conditioners and things of that nature. If you happen to be one of the rare people, like the 2% of people that don't have a problem with gluten being an inflammatory agent in your body, because many people don't actually have celiac disease, but the gluten itself is an inflammatory agent to everybody's body. So if you've decided that you want to eat gluten, then I highly recommend that you make your own breads, and you make it with more of the natural forms of wheat, like the ancient ones, einkorn. And never, ever, ever use any of dough conditioners that they put into the commercial breads. It's in almost every commercial bread, because they're made with bromine and will leach your iodine out of your system, and that wreaks havoc on your thyroid And the thyroid is a master gland which affects almost every other metabolic function in your body. So it's super, super important to have your iodine levels strong and healthy. By the way, another thing about selenium is there's a really important part, we're not going to get into it today because it's so complex, about how the thyroid works, but it's a deionizing process that selenium is responsible for, so that you can actually remove one of the ions off of T4 so that it can be utilized, because T4 we don't use, we only use T3, and we need to deionize it, and the selenium is responsible for deionizing that particular molecule off of the T4 so that we can have a usable T3. So there's so much about foods that we don't realize. Another food that I highly recommend that you put into your diet is beets, because beets really helps with NOS, which gives us energy in all of our muscles. It's very healing and supportive to the gallbladder, and for men it really helps with erectile dysfunction. It's a very important support for the circulation in the body and the muscles in particular. So it's great for the heart, it's great for the gallbladder, and it's great for muscle function. And the primary thing that's in it is called arginine. It's a protein that many bodybuilders like to use, and you can get the benefits from beets for that purpose, which really supports bodybuilding. So there's so many things in our kitchens that we can use to really help us out. And one of them that I've been doing lately quite a bit of is I'll take a number of really high quality healing roots like ginger root and turmeric root, and I'm slicing them and putting in some little sticks of cinnamon into a jar, and then I'm pouring organic apple cider vinegar over it and letting it soak. And then I take 2 tablespoons from that jar, and I typically will add a little bit of lime juice, sometimes some fresh aloe vera juice, and sparkling water. And if I want to sweeten it, I'll use a little bit of stevia, and make the most delicious aperitif, to have before meals, because that will support your body's production of hydrochloric acid, which really is supportive for your digestion. And when we talk about digestive things, we can talk about that as well. But one of the things we want to do as well is get things out of our kitchen, as well as putting things in the kitchen that are really beneficial for us. And I have these little checklists, and Berger's going to put these up on the website for us. These are coming from my dear friend Bill Walcott, and for 35 years now, I guess I've been doing metabolic typing. And these are some of the things that we would give to our patients that are doing metabolic typing, but they'll be available on the website for you to download. And one of them is a checklist for reducing the blocking factors that contribute to a toxic load in your body. And the other one is a checklist to take a look at all the good things you've been doing, how you've been enhancing your, well, in this case we're saying metabolic typing program, but your life, your overall health. So one of the things I'd like to encourage you to do is get out a big garbage bag and start going through your cupboards and your refrigerator. And the things that you want to get rid of are anything with a lot of words on them, as far as descriptions go, that include a lot of chemicals in them. We want our foods to be natural and organic, and we don't want them to have a lot of preservatives, and we don't want them to be made with pesticides. We want real foods. So we want to get rid of, first of all, dairy products that are homogenized and that have BGH in them. A lot of products that have dairy products within them might be using inexpensive, cheap dairy that has not been with cows that have been outdoors in the grass. In order for a cow to produce healthy fat, it needs to be eating grass and be in the sunlight. Just like for us to produce healthy cholesterol and healthy fats for our brain and for our hormones, we need to be outdoors in the sun and eating organic foods, you know. And so we want to get rid of those sorts of things that are not made with healthy dairy products. Many people can really benefit profoundly, particularly with fermented dairy products, when you have a good source of grass-fed dairy, low temperature, pasteurized, or raw. And here in Texas, we're not able to buy it in the grocery stores, but we can go out to the farmers and buy our raw milks. And there are, I believe, certain co-ops or different buying groups that might be able to help you with getting your hands on some raw dairy here in Texas. If you want more data on this, you can go onto the YouTube and you can see just all the horrible things they're feeding to farm-raised fish, how they're being inoculated with all kinds of antibiotics and things. And they really do not have what we're eating fish for, the EPA and the DHA and the vitamin A, Ds, and Ks. So they're really worthless to eat, and in some cases downright harmful. So I highly recommend that if you're going to eat seafood, be the real thing from the ocean, and or healthy rivers and streams and lakes. We want to do the same when it comes to our eggs. We want to support our local farmers, and we want to get eggs that come from chickens that are running around in the pasture outside, so that they actually have sunlight as well, and all the nutrients from the soil and the minerals, and not only that, but the microorganisms from the soil in the area that we live, because that can be very, very beneficial to us as well. And we don't want to be eating eggs from chickens that have been raised in those huge, awful hen houses where all the chickens are sick and they've all had to be inoculated, and it's just terrible. It makes me sad to even think about what they do to those poor chickens. So, you know, so many people who are vegetarians think that all of the chickens are treated this way, or all of the cows are treated the way that they are in feedlots. That's a very, very different thing. When you have conscientious farmers who really love their animals, take really good care of them, are really proud of their animals, and are that where the animals are properly slaughtered and cared for their whole lives out in nature, and they've lived a long, healthy, beautiful life. So, you know, I really encourage you to look into this sort of thing. More and more stores are becoming aware of our interest in this, and they're literally labeling their meats by different classifications having to do with whether they're completely grown and slaughtered on property where they were born, or you know, just exactly what's gone on in their life, so that you know what you're buying. And I really applaud the stores that are doing things like this. It's really important. And Whole Foods has actually been one of the stores who's been really classifying their meats. So I think you can also find that at our co-ops here in Austin. Okay, so we want to stay away from soda pops. The phosphoric acid in them can really mess with our mineral content, the sugars in them, the chemicals, the colorations, all of that can be a problem, but there are some natural ones that are using, I mean, I highly recommend that you just get a good mineral water like Pellegrino, and I like to use things like a root beer stevia if I want to make a soda pop tasting thing. Or take some fresh juice, like a little bit of pomegranate juice and a squeeze of lime. There's wonderful essential oils that you can flavor your drinks with as well, and get very, very creative. So I encourage you to play in your kitchen, but use real things like Pellegrino and in a glass bottle instead of a plastic bottle that contributes to cancer issues. I do my best to never drink out of a plastic bottle. I carry glass bottles with me, and even in the airport these days, they recognize that people are interested in not having to drink out of plastic containers, and they're trying to help with the problem with too much plastic on the planet. So they have water that has been purified available that you can fill up your glass bottles with. So I always bring a glass bottle with me when I fly. So that's a possibility for you as well. You definitely want to get all the refined grain products out of the house, so crackers and breads and cereals are a big deal. Most people don't realize, and can get lots of information about what I'm going to tell you at the Weston A. Price Foundation website, but most people don't realize that almost every flaked cereal, even if it's from a wonderful, grain like amaranth or teff or something like that, if it's in the form of a flake, then it's gone through an extrusion process. And extrusion basically requires an extremely high heat, I believe it's thousands of degrees, and a high air process. And that heat literally destroys the proteins in the grains and turns them into neurotoxic substances. And the higher the quality of the grain, the higher the neurotoxin. And there's been some really scary studies where they've taken rats and given them an option of, some rats were eating just cornflakes. Another group of rats was just eating rat chow. Another group was just eating sugar, and another group was just eating the box. And the ones who were eating just the box lived longer than the ones who were eating the cornflakes. And the scary part about the ones that were eating the cornflakes, which didn't happen with the others, is that they became violent, freaked out, attacked their other animals in the space, and became cannibalistic with their fellow rats. With sugar, they just died of diabetes. With rat chow, they lived normally. But with cornflakes, they became neurotoxic and became unbelievably violent, crazy, and out of their minds and killing each other. So I recommend that we stay away from extruded cereals, all of them. And these days, in fact, Bernard just gave me a little taste of a really fun product. It was a non-grain granola. And you can take things like coconut and nuts and seeds and mix those with things like stevia. In this case, they were using maple syrup. I prefer not to use the sugars. And they also used, I think, a coconut sugar with this one. If you want to, I don't tend to personally put in dried fruit because of the high sugar content, but maybe an unsweetened dried cherry or something like that might have some special benefits for you personally. And you can put those into a dehydrator, make them really yummy and crunchy, and eat that like a cereal, and then get a lot of nutrients from it. And I think I might even consider personally using a little bit of something like blackstrap molasses in there, but all different kinds of seeds, and giving you lots of nutrients. So we just want to be looking for things we can replace things that we're letting go of in our world. I was so surprised the other day. I was walking through Costco, and there was a group of young girls who were all talking about how much they loved paleo pancake mix that was there from Costco. And it was a coconut almond flour coconut pancake mix, so it's even getting out into the mainstream that we can make foods that we might have great attachment to, that were always made with flours before, without flours, and actually benefit from them and not hurt ourselves. Okay, so the other thing that we want to take a look at is, what are we storing our food in? are we just storing it in plastic and styrofoams and things like that? Or I highly recommend that we invest, if we need to, or just get old jars and put everything in glass to the best of our abilities. Like I have glass Pyrex dishes and plastic tops. And what I'll do is I'll use a piece of parchment paper over the top of the food, and then I'll put the plastic lid on. And I bought a bunch of salmon the other day, and just when I got it home, I immediately took it out of the plastic wrapping container and rinsed it, and then put it into the glass Pyrex dish in the refrigerator. And in the long run, I think we're going to really be helping ourselves out a lot, because these plastic wraps and plastic containers that we're using do have really nasty polyphenols and things in them. And there are studies showing newborn umbilical cords that are already filled with these terrible benzenes and BPAs and plastics that are carcinogenic before a baby's even born, passed on from mom to the baby. And I mean, that means that we're loaded with them. If it's already, if it's been passed through placenta to a baby, that means we've really got a lot of them in our bodies.
I wonder if there's any paper-based or cardboard-based containers that one could go in that direction.
There are more and more products that are being made out of coconut and hemp and bamboo, yes, all these sorts of things. So it is the direction of the future, and for those of you who are entrepreneurial, looking to make a difference in the world, boy, that would be wonderful if you could come up with a very inexpensive way to do that and sell it to the major food manufacturers, because we really do need to reduce, first of all, all of these things that are not biodegradable. So we want a biodegradable product, and we definitely want a non-toxic product. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk to you about is our mouths. And most people have no clue that we have this profound microbiome that's really important in our mouths. And a lot of the toothpaste and mouthwashes and things that people use are designed to kill all the bacteria in our mouth. And I personally have chosen to work in a very different direction. I use a product called Revitin. It's a type of a natural toothpaste that actually supports the microbiome of the mouth to be a healthy microbiome. And a lot of people are very concerned about the plaquing and things that happens from the biofilms that happen in the mouth. But this will support healthy biomes so that we're not creating these types of problems. And we're supporting our overall health, and we have healthy gums that way, and our gums have so much to do with our heart tissue, and our gums are also right here, very close to our brains, and lots of nerves, enormous amounts of nerves in our mouths, which profoundly feed into and give information to the brain. Most of us don't realize that we have far more nerve tissue going to the brain than from the brain to the body. And so we really want to support a healthy biome in the mouth by using wonderful natural things. The Native Americans used to use licorice sticks, and they would just chew on licorice sticks. They called it Indian toothbrush. And for years I would carry little sticks of licorice. I'll show you some, Bernard. I've got some downstairs. And just chew on them during the day. If you like that taste, it's kind of an anise, fennel, licorice taste, then you would really enjoy chewing on them. And it's kind of funny because they almost look like a broom. They're a stick, and as you chew them, this kind of fanning out happens with what's left kind of a yellowish color, and you're creating a longer and longer broom and a shorter stick as you chew on it. So
There's also ash bark, right, that the Indians have used for their teeth.
I didn't know about
Chewing
ash
on
bark.
ash bark, white ash bark, I think.
I'll look that up for sure
Right.
too. Yeah. But we just want to make sure that we're not going too crazy with antibacterials. You know, people are using a lot of peppermint and a lot of tea tree and things like that, and clove, which are very antibacterial. And we don't want to kill the biome in the mouth. You know, we're not trying to do a parasite treatment on our teeth. And people are putting those kinds of really strong antibiotic herbs into the mouth to brush your teeth with. Also, we definitely want to stay away from fluoride toothpaste and the synthetic toothpaste, you know, the big name ones. So, you know, we do want to go more in the natural direction. So, yeah, that's a very important thing too. The other thing I want to mention to you is if you have root canals or if you have silver-looking fillings in your mouth, then you have a constant source of harmful heavy metals and most likely infection in your mouth. Unfortunately, most of our dentists these days are not trained in removing periodontal ligaments when they do an extraction of our wisdom teeth. And they leave the periodontal ligament in, which over time dies, necroses, and becomes gangrene in the jaw and creates a horrible infection that's constantly affecting your nervous system, your brain, and your body. And it can be a major contributing factor in all kinds of chronic disease, from diabetes to Lyme disease. So it's highly recommended that we look into these sorts of things. Since most dentists don't take care of it, we need to find ourselves a really good biological dentist who can take a look at if you have cavitations. The other thing is that root canals are putting metal into the mouth, which is a totally unnatural substance. And our parts of our body that are designed to get rid of infection will then attack the metal and act in a way like an autoimmune situation where we might have a substance that's going into the body that's an unnatural substance. The body doesn't recognize it. It says alert, alert, and the next thing you know, there's an inflammatory thing going on where that substance has connected to some tissue in the body. In this case, it would be the jaw. And again, we're dealing with an infection that would be constantly dripping into the body, and oftentimes really nasty funguses. And interestingly enough, spirochetes, the two primary sources of spirochetes are from things like Lyme disease, but also spirochetes in the mouth. So it's quite interesting that we can have that type of an infection in the mouth from that sort of a problem. So, you know, really looking at what's going on with your teeth and doing your very best to not have constant toxicity going into your body with every bite or every drink that you take. And there's a really interesting video on YouTube. I think it's called The Smoking Tooth, and they show the vapors of mercury coming off of the tooth that we don't typically see, but they're using a special type of camera work to look at the mercury vapors coming off a tooth when we eat, and especially when we drink anything that's hot. That reminds me, if you are a person who loves to buy hot beverages away from home and you get those plastic lids that go on top that you typically would use to keep from spilling, those are some of the highest BPA's things you can get your hands on. So if you're going to get a beverage, ideally you bring your own, container to drink from that you know is not toxic. But if you don't, please don't use those tops. Sip it down before you get in your car, enough that you don't have to put one of those things on top of the drink. Because they are so unbelievably toxic. Okay,
So Meridian, you have been gone for 40 minutes now. Is that, just so you know?
Okay.
I'm going to cut that out, but I just wanted to let you know.
So let's just do a quick little kind of a recommendation. So first of all, we want to have our homes as filled with natural light, native light, instead of toxic light that we possibly can. If we are going to be in front of screens, we want to use blue blockers. We want to get as much fresh air into our homes as possible. If you need to get a filtering system, an air filter, do that. One of the things you can do to support healthy oxygen levels in your house is to have houseplants. They're beautiful. They bring a lovely energy into your home. I highly recommend, having houseplants. It's a great way to have good, clean air. Please make sure that you don't have any mold happening in your house. If you think that there might be, you can give us a call and we can talk to you about an ERMI test, and you can get your house tested for mold and mycotoxins. Make sure that you change your filters on your heating and air conditioning system often so that your air is not circulating through dirty filters. So you have fresh quality air. Please do your best to have as much organic food as possible. Check out ewg.org. It's the environmentalworkinggroup.org to find healthy products for cleaning your house and for your skin. And also DWI, DYI, do it yourself. Projects to make your own skincare products and your own house cleaning products out of natural things like distilled vinegar and borax and things like that for cleaning your house. One fun thing that I recently started doing was I got some really good quality Manuka honey, and I'll use a little bit of that on my face with water to wash my face. And once a week I'll add some high quality organic sugar. In India they just actually use smashed sugar cane. It's called jaggery, and I'll add a little bit of that to the honey and a little bit of an essential oil that's good for the skin like lavender. And I'll use that as a scrub for my face once or twice a week. And it's amazing how beautiful your skin will look. Ice cubes are fabulous on your face as well to close your pores. So you can also use honey on cuts and wounds, particularly Manuka honey. It's wonderful. Remember our use of apple cider vinegar to support your digestive system. And do your best to use natural things that are not going to mess with your probiotics in your mouth for brushing your teeth. And get yourself outdoors in the sun as much as humanly possible without glasses, particularly no sunglasses, unless you absolutely need them for, so that it's safe to drive, because sometimes we have a glare. I think I use sunglasses about 5 minutes a year driving because of the glare when I'm driving. And get as much of the wonderful sunlight as you can, as much dew on your feet, and experience with nature and walking out in nature and finding the things that really lighten your heart, that help you to feel good about you. Because there's nothing that's more healing than loving yourself, being grateful for your life, being grateful for what I call our earth suit that we get to enjoy the world through right now, and sharing that with those that we love. So thanks for joining us, and please check out our website, awakeninghealth.com. I'm always available for consults and sessions and do all kinds of testing if you want that sort of thing done. But we also look at how we can use nature first as our primary healer. Thanks for tuning in.